Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, in the early hours of the 1st of September 2013, assassins and ambushers from the Iraqi military apparatus launched a military assault on Camp Ashraf. You've now just watched the video. The attack was launched with the sole aim of hunting and annihilating the 100 women and men remaining in Camp Ashraf. In an act of sheer barbarity, these savages murdered in cold blood 52 unarmed women and men. Some, as we've just seen, had their arms tied behind their backs before being summarily executed with a bullet to the head. Others, as I've said, were slaughtered in the medical centre in Camp Ashraf, to which they went in order to receive medical treatment for their terrible wounds. So the residents of Camp Ashraf, as we all know, should have been protected by international law. They are protected people under the 4th Geneva Convention, as well as being recognised by the UNHCR as asylum seekers and persons of concern. Moreover, ladies and gentlemen, they were actually in Camp Ashraf as part of the legally binding quadripartite agreement between the Iraqi government, United Nations, United States and residents of Camp Ashraf and Liberty. And it was agreed that they would remain in Camp Ashraf to oversee the sale of the residents' possessions. The 42 Ashraf residents who survived the attack are indeed witnesses to the atrocities which have been carried out. They must be protected from international law in order that they can give evidence against the perpetrators of these crimes. I want to very briefly focus on the blacklisting of the PMOI in the United States, and I speak as one of the 35 cross-party parliamentarians from both houses that challenged the British government at the court, successfully leading to the deprescription of the PMOI in the United Kingdom. The designation in the US must also be revoked from both a legal and a political viewpoint. The first is that the United Kingdom's Prescribed Organisations Appeal Commission looked at all the open and closed evidence surrounding the case in detail and during lengthy hearings, and in the end ruled that the decision of the Home Secretary to maintain the prescription was perverse. The second fact is when the government took the case to a higher court, the Lord Chief Justice looked at all the evidence, including the closed evidence provided by the United States government, and found that the closed evidence substantially reinforced the review that it was perverse to classify the PMOI as terrorists. The third fact is that the European Union lifted its ban on the PMOI after 4 verdicts by the European Court of First Instance in favour of the group. And the fourth and final fact, which I think is perhaps the most relevant in terms of the United States of America, is that Washington, D.C. Court of Appeal last July found in favour of the PMOI and said in its judgment that from a legal point of view, the group did not merit to be on the blacklist, and the decision to blacklist the group was political in nature. So wake up, America. Wake up, Barack Obama. Wake up, Hillary Clinton, and deal with the issue. When we look at the political side of the case, the PMOI was blacklisted by a previous administration to establish friendly ties with the Iranian government of the time, which had been presumed to be moderate. All the while, the so-called moderates in the regime were secretly building nuclear weapons, and this was exposed quite rightly by the PMOI. The blacklisting has only emboldened the most vicious faction of the regime by hindering all serious opposition.
سر دیوید ایمس از پیشگامان دفاع از یک سیاست قاطع در برابر دیکتاتوری آخوندی و رد سیاست استمالت از آخوندها بود و همواره بر لزوم حمایت از آلترناتیو دموکراتیک شورای ملی مقاومت ایران تاکید می‌کرد. وی در کنفرانس بین المللی که در 31 خرداد 1399 در آغاز 40مین سال مقاومت انقلابی، روز شهیدان و زندانیان سیاسی، با حضور رئیس جمهور برگزیده مقاومت در ارتباط زنده با 2000 نقطه در کشورهای مختلف و اشرف 3 برگزار شد گفت:
If you look at Iran, the reality is that the policy of appeasement and engagement with Tehran has been an absolute disastrous failure. It did not moderate Tehran's behavior and only allowed the regime to pursue its destabilizing activities, cashing in on the incentives and sanction relief. Back in January, just before the corona lockdown in the United Kingdom, my colleagues and I discussed this at a conference in the House of Commons organised by the British Committee for Iran Freedom. We agreed that the right approach for the United Kingdom is to adopt a firm policy on Iran that recognises the decades of popular struggle for freedom and democracy in Iran and the Iranian People's Resistance Movement, the NCRI, led by Mrs. Maryam Rajavi. And it is only logical that you have to support the Iranian Resistance Movement, NCRI, if you want Iran to be more peaceful, benevolent and a constructive force for good on the international scene. More importantly, the NCRI has shown during the last 41 years that it is up to the task, even as the regime has executed close to 120,000 of its supporters and members. A brighter future for Iran is achievable and within reach, as the NCRI President-elect, Mrs. Maryam Rajavi, is often saying. We in the West and the international community have to stand with the Iranian people and NCRI as you try to take back the country and democratic revolution that the theocratic regime stole in 1979. That is what I will continue to do, because it is the right policy and morally correct to do. And I have no doubt that a free, secular and democratic Iran is possible if the Iranian people are given the change and the opportunity.
در جریان گردهمایی‌های مقاومت ایران در اشرف 3 در تیر ماه 98 و در پایان گردهمایی ایران آزاد با شرکت صدها تن از شخصیت‌های بین‌المللی از 47 کشور جهان، شرکت کنندگان همبستگی خود را با مقاومت و قیام مردم ایران اعلام کردند. در این گردهمایی بیانیه نمایندگان مجلسین عوام و اعیان انگلستان در حمایت از قیام مردم ایران و برنامه 10 ماده‌ای خانم مریم رجوی از سوی سر دیوید ایمس، نماینده ارشد پارلمان انگلستان و رئیس مشترک کمیته بریتانیایی برای آزادی ایران به خانم مریم رجوی اهدا شد.
Madam Rajavi, I never got to go to Camp Ashraf 2, but I'm absolutely delighted to be at Ashraf 3, not least because it's in this wonderful country of Albania. Albania, who produced the magnificent Mother Teresa, who I had the privilege of meeting. Such an icon, a wonderful woman. But I wanted to thank you, Mrs. Rajavi, for the invitation to take part in this wonderful conference. I've been a British Member of Parliament for 36 years. These are extraordinary times. I'm the co-chairman of the British Committee for Iran Freedom, and on behalf of the committee, which is cross-party, made up of both houses, some of who are here, we want to stand in solidarity, Mrs. Rajavi, with you and your wonderful people. I reflect on the wonderful rally that you had in Paris last year. Might I say, this is even better. I love in what is sometimes a dull world, I absolutely love the glitz. So, ladies and gentlemen, Iran's future belongs to its people, and only a true Iranian force like the NCRI and the PMOI can help them change their future for better. That is why we will continue to support you, the Democratic Opposition Coalition, the NCRI and its President-elect, Mrs. Maryam Rajavi. We will continue to call on the United Kingdom government and the European Union to adopt a firm policy and recognise the Iranian people's organised opposition, the NCRI, and their right to bring about democratic change to their country. We will not desist until every Iranian enjoys freedom, prosperity, and, dare I say, your leadership. But I would like to present you on behalf of my colleagues. I wonder if colleagues would come and join me.
Thank you. It's very valuable. Thank you for all your support and all your work.
My name is David Amos. I'm the Conservative Member of Parliament for Southend West, elected to the British Parliament in 1983, and it is my great honour to be chairing today's proceedings. I have been a long-standing supporter of the Ashraf residents for over 20 years. So last year, in such days, the world witnessed a savage massacre in Camp Ashraf, in which 36 residents were killed in cold blood, only because they were not prepared to surrender to the religious fascism ruling Iran. These 36 and all those who were wounded and lost their lives after the attack of the 8th of April because of the cruel medical siege are symbols of perseverance for us all today. They are our inspiration. So today, ladies and gentlemen, we pay homage to each and every one of them, and let everyone in Ashraf and Liberty know that we will be with them until their final victory, until freedom comes to Iran